believe we're live.
Hopefully we're live. Hopefully we're live.
We are
Hello,
live.
hello, ladies and
We
gentlemen.
are live.
We're
All right. We've been having a few bits of technical difficulties here. It's we've had like some software issues, some stream key issues, but finally,
We prevailed.
almost 30 minutes after we were supposed to go, we are finally here, and we're finally here to talk about SSSS
something-
Gridman.
Not something to brag about, but but yeah, we're here to talk about
Yeah.
SSSS Gridman.
All right, I am Neo Tokyo Tempo. Everyone else, introduce yourselves.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has finally happened. I have remembered my handle accurately.
Let me turn down the game volume. Just
Also,
keep talking.
Lawrence.
What'd you say?
He's turning it on the game volume. Back to my introduction. The fabulous, the wonderful, the knowledgeable, the incredibly handsome Lawrence. I'm here to guide you through the beauty that is Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad Gridman. Ladies and gentlemen,
Well,
Continue.
you
Go on.
go by Blackest Night.
all right, RJ.
Okay, I am Red Baron. The guy go by Red Baron, but I'm RJ. Lewis.
How's it going, everybody? This is Striker Red coming at you for the first podcast of the year, and we're doing one hell of an anime. SSSS Gridman, also known as one of the sleeper hits of 2018.
Josh.
And last but not least,
And I'm Getsuryu, and I'm just excited to be ranting about this podcast rather than enjoying it.
we got quite the debate lined up. I guess I'll do my sort of introduction to the show. SSSS Gridman, or whatever that stands for. Lawrence knows it, but I don't. I can't be bothered to remember it.
Superhuman
It-
Samurai Cyber Squad, even though cyber is spelled with a C, it does not matter.
It is cool, spelled with a K.
Exactly.
But anyway, it is a show about a young boy who wakes up and he has amnesia, and he's trying to figure out, who he was, until he is contacted by an unknown entity from a really old computer. And there's a whole bunch of kaiju in the background, and only he can see them. And
Of course, he's the chosen one.
yeah, and he gets sucked into the computer, and he becomes Gridman. And Gridman, he ends up fighting these kaiju that come up to attack the city. And but the weird thing is that every time there's a kaiju attack, the next morning nobody remembers it, and all the damage is fixed. But there's some people missing, but the people missing died a long time ago.
Nobody remembers them because they died a long time ago.
And I thought it was a cool show. It was very fun to watch. I felt like I was a kid again, sitting on the floor, looking at that really old wood grain Zenith TV and watching Dragon Ball Z or something.
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun.
I must add to that because I see my first exposure to that sort of media was Godzilla as a kid. So I grew up in Asia, and my cousins would actually record Godzilla on the VCR for me. Like when I'd go to school, I demand that Godzilla be recorded, and I come home to watch Godzilla. This was a pleasant little mixture. I mean, Lawrence, you called it a toku show, right?
It's a tokusatsu show, the genre in which Godzilla and Power Rangers both hail from. Yes.
That's awesome. So it was like it was a pleasant little mixture of what I'm used to with mecha, but it's got kaiju. So it's exactly what I grew up with. So hailing back to what Will said, what Neo Tokyo was on about, it reminded me of when I was a kid, and I grew up in a different part of the world. So
So, this show is technically, or it is a sequel to the original '90s show live action Gridman, and its American counterpart, Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. Hence the SSSS in the name, which it's a bit strange that they would even try and and appeal as hard as they are to like the Western demographic, because not many people remember Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. Like, there's only
Now,
I certainly didn't watch it. I'll admit that.
it was popular, but
Me
it
either.
didn't stay around like like Power Rangers sit around.
Go Power Rangers! I remember that.
It wasn't
all right.
until like a couple of years ago that I got into Super Sentai through a friend. I mean, damn.
Yeah.
Uh,
So the show, because I while I was watching the show, I had just completed the original show. It's a sequel to, and there's a lot of similarities within the plot to it. Although it's definitely it's got a lot of influence from two primary sources, Hideaki Anno and Masami Obari, and that's an incredible mix, because you get some of the more cerebral tonal elements of works like Evangelion with all of the bombastic, awesome robot and action of any of Masami Obari's work from
yeah, Masami Obari is he's in Trigger, right? He directed this.
he did no
No?
not it was Akira
Really?
Amemiya. Yes.
Really?
Yes, he was not. In fact, there was a bit of controversy because of just how much Akira Amemiya referenced Masami Obari's work, and he dedicated this as a fan work to Masami Obari, and Masami Obari and him ended up meeting and having a conversation about it, because there were a couple of shots that were basically complete homages to some of Obari's work. So there was some little rumblings of plagiarism, but they met and they hashed it out, and Obari approved. He definitely loved it.
So let's get into the meat and potatoes. Let's actually get into reviewing this. All right.
Yeah.
What did you guys? Let's first start with the easy stuff. What did you guys think of the music?
I thought it was all right. I liked it.
I'll be honest with you, the music was freaking hype, especially the intro. God.
Yeah, the intro is what immediately sticks out to me. I think from the shows I've seen in 2018, the intro to SSSS Gridman is probably the coolest intro that I've seen in 2018. It sent chills up my arm every time I listened to it. The visuals that went around with it, how the way it was cutting, it was very hype. Got me really excited to see some kaiju battles, and it was a lot of fun. Josh, you've been quiet. What did you think of the music?
I think that was probably my favorite part. I actually like the ending a little bit more.
The live action.
The ending like music. I'm actually a really big fan of like how that played out, and that like style of guitar. So
Yeah, the ending music was pretty good too.
Yeah,
The music. Yeah, go ahead.
to me, it was sort of a hit or miss compared to the intro, but that's just me.
Yeah, the one of a lot of the action in the show when the action was playing, they would kind of spam the opening theme a lot during the show, and I think that is kind of a drawback. I think they should have really gotten together a bit of a better score and instead of and trusted the show's scoring a bit more than they were. Because otherwise, you're hearing the same track over and over and over again, and it is a great track, but it does kind of wear thin.
I think the other thing is like the reason why I do like the ending theme is the singer of that ending theme is actually also a voice actor in Japan that does a ton of work and has been in a bunch of my favorite shows too. So like that voice was very iconic to me, and
Yeah.
so like it just brings back like all of those other animes that I enjoy. So it's kind of nice to hear the multi-talented work in Japan, where not only do they have the voice actors voicing things, but they're also going in and doing that. And just to refer back to last month's podcast, the singer of that last track was the Guild Girl in Goblin Slayer.
What? You're kidding
Yes.
me.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So and you can look up like all of the shows that she's done. I mean, her list is extremely long. I mean, she's been in very predominant animes that most of you would have seen. So that's what brings me to enjoy that song a little bit more rather than just hiring another anime band, because I think they hired Ox T.
Yeah. All right. With that out of the way, there wasn't too much to say about the soundtrack because there's not really much to rip on. So with that out of the way, let's go and talk about the show's animation and art style.
The visual direction from this show is heavily inspired by some of Hideaki Anno's work, and this has to do with the director's choices to pay homage to his favorite things wholeheartedly. If you look throughout the show, there are references to things like as far as character designs go. Akane's design is based off of a really obscure like Transformers alternate color scheme for Optimus Prime.
What?
Yeah. The main hero's shoes are based off of a one of the Transformers like he's a car, I think, from either Armada or Robots in Disguise. His shoes are that car's color scheme and deco, just flat out. It's really like dedicated to this man's love and interest, his love of the original, just referencing as many of the things he enjoys and loves into this one project, and it shows because the animation is top notch, really top notch, and especially the CG. The CG was done by Grafnica, I believe, and it's probably some of the best anime CG I've seen in forever.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the CG, sometimes I couldn't even tell it was CG. Like like most of the time CG in anime, it looks like a 90s Western movie. It looks like it looks like something like from the Matrix, like PS2 graphics
Yeah.
in anime. It's almost always very cheap. It doesn't look right. It sticks out like a sore thumb. But in this case, the CG never once looked out of place. It had not only some of the best CG effects I've seen in a long time in anime, I think it had some of the best CG effects ever in anime. It was like and one of the great things they did was they made the kaiju almost especially a lot of the early ones, they made them almost look like they were kaiju from old like Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
How they
That
had
was
the
one of their definite intentions was to do that and to replicate the movements of somebody in a suit. So to hear you say that, not knowing that that's like the main thing they set out to do with the kaiju is great. That came through that clearly.
Yeah, I actually, like, when I watched it, I immediately thought, oh my god, they are trying and succeeding to replicate that. That was my immediate impression. So the fact that that's what in fact they were trying to do makes it very it makes it a very big success. Striker, what did you think of the visuals? Are you there?
I was writing something. Oh, honestly, I personally like the character design. The eyes were a little unsettling because of the different color combinations that they had, like the different iris. Like for example, in Rika's case, her eyes were blue, but they also had like a dot of a purple. I know. It seems like they were trying to work on the details, and honestly, it is pretty unique. The
Yeah.
CGI,
What? Keep going.
regarding the CGI, well, regarding the automobiles in there, I feel like these were mostly downloaded from the site because I saw cars that weren't usually from Japan, like the Ford Focus in there. I mean, they did sell, but Ford left that market like a couple of years ago. Also but yeah, the buildings and everything, the computer design, pretty appropriate, to be honest with you.
Getsuru, what did you think of the visual?
Visually, I thought this was a very great anime. I'm not gonna talk too much about like all the mech kind of battles and the kaiju's, but just the animation for just like the normal scenes whenever they're in the city, seeing how some of the destruction kind of affected everything, and I actually did enjoy the eyes. Like that actually made it pop more to me. That made me like they were almost able to show more emotion with that detail, even though they were a little bit off at some points. I thought it came across as a more genuine look for a couple of the characters. So visually, I thought that this anime was better than most. I'll say.
Mind if I add something real quick?
Go ahead.
And that's regarding one of the character designs, Boss. I legit thought that Boss was a girl until I checked out the wiki, and and it's a boy, like straight up. I'm not sure what to say.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
seriously.
It's weird. That doesn't make sense because I was looking at that too, And I just thought maybe they got this wrong because at one point in the show, for Voss, I guess he or she, whatever you want to say at this point.
Yeah,
Said,
straight out canon. It's a boy.
Okay, but at one point, then he said, "Talk to Mama later," like, or don't piss off Mama.
We'll have to look back through the show and see if they, in the abstract, they refer to as he or she.
Yeah, I was gonna say really quick though. I just want to say something really quick. I like the cross references between Evangelion and this show. It's SSS Gridman. I'm sorry, SSS Gridman. So many I mean, Lawrence had mentioned a few that he noticed, but so many references. One thing I wanted to make a joke about was just what was that guy again? Because I committed blasphemy. I didn't finish. I mean, I finished Evangelion, but I didn't really I don't remember it too well. The silver-haired kid who gets close to Shinji, and he's the final angel. Kaoru. Okay, yeah. So Anti kind of has a similar relationship with Yuta, but instead of wanting to kiss him, it's I want to defeat you.
It's the exact opposite relationship. He wants to kill Gridman. That's his only purpose in life. Kaoru genuinely loves Shinji, and in a platonic way, but he has nothing but positive.
It didn't look very platonic to me.
It didn't look very platonic. There was definitely some pandering to a certain demographic that enjoys men kissing.
Yes, we know all about the fangirls. We don't need to go there.
So,
the Fujoshis.
So we gotta at least mention Rika's thighs.
No. Why
not?
Because
and Akane. Oh god.
If it's well drawn, it's well drawn. But come on, let's focus on the anime.
It is the anime.
Lives.
Okay.
Save lives. We've heard this before, but the Church of Rika has converted many a man and showed them the true salvation. Okay.
All right. That skirt is insanely short. Is that even a skirt? Holy crap!
That skirt is exactly the right length, my dude.
I'm 100% in support of this.
I am a little indifferent here because I just want to watch the anime to watch monsters and robots beat the shit out of each other.
No. So yeah, no. I actually did like her character design, just as that. It definitely is going to be it's good because you have to look at it in two fronts, which is you have the guys that are just gonna buy a ton of the posters and put them everywhere, and then you also have the girls that are gonna cosplay the hell out of her.
Yep.
So
we were talking about Rika, but also Akane. Personally, her. I'll be honest with you. The character design is just right, especially the pale lavender hair.
Yeah.
What do you guys just from moving on to the actual characters from their designs? What did you guys think of some of the characters like Akane? Because I think she's one of the definitely the most interesting part of the show.
I think Akane started out as a very, very interesting villain. Akane, at first, they didn't know that she was the villain, but then when they did, it's sort of like our friend from school is the villain of the show, and it added an interesting dynamic, and it helped a lot, with making her interesting, that not only was she doing all these horrible things, but she was so unbelievably manipulative at all times. She was always capable of getting underneath the skin of the other characters. But a bit of a spoiler here. Even she was also being manipulated herself.
By the thing that creates the kaijus. Woo!
Yeah.
I will say this: that she has a real knack for modeling kaijus, and Kaoru even fangirls with her in one of the episodes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say one other thing. There's that whole thing where people fight over waifus, their favorite female character from Eva, and I love how one of the reasons that Yuta is not influenced by her, or rather, like he's different, is because he doesn't like her. It's like he likes the other girl. He doesn't like her. So that's why she has no control over him, and that's why he's chosen to be Greedman. Like.
Yeah.
Oh, you know.
I found Boar, the one that's the one we can't figure out if
Okay, I did look it up. So it was the Japanese. Where was it? It was like the Japanese voice actor. Confirmed that he was male, but the Funimation had it as a female because they didn't know, and then the voice actor in America came out and said it was confirmed in Japan that I guess I was playing a male character, so I guess I was playing best boy in show. So congrats, the lolly in this show is also a trap.
Yeah, I found him to not actually be very interesting. I found I find that there's way too many characters that are just like him, and there's not actually much there's actually not much to this character to like flesh him out, and because of that he only really has that sort of aggressive Napoleon complex personality to fall back on, and it's just not enough to carry the character.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of Caliber. That was my favorite out of all of them. Whenever he busts out laughing, that was probably one of my favorite parts of the entire anime, honestly.
Yeah. Caliber ended up being a really popular character.
That was a samurai fellow, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was my favorite too. He's the one helping find like people that have been like injured or gone missing during the kaiju attacks.
Yeah.
It was Caliber, Max, Boar, and then Vit.
Yeah, when you see there's a part during the opening theme where you just see all of them, and it looks like a completely different show.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny. It looks like a early 2000s shonen martial arts show when you just put all those characters in the same spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the fact that they had a fucking sword, like, and then they had the battle axe whenever they combined too. That was a little weird.
I swear, the way these guys were wearing tuxedos, it kind of looked like I was watching a Japanese adaptation of Men in Black.
I was okay with that. Like, I actually like their uniform. Like, all of them like had like different kind of like dress up kind of things. I don't know.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think of Yuta himself?
He was actually all right. I prefer him to Shinji any day.
Well,
he's forgettable.
Shinji's a product of his circumstance.
Yeah, I keep hearing this.
This is not Ava debate show. Let's stay on track.
Okay.
We'll have that debate someday.
We're gonna have it soon. We're gonna have that classical anime podcast, right? At some point.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but we might not do Ava. We haven't decided.
We'll see.
We're gonna have
we'll
to start
see
in
all
March.
the-
At some point in March, just off topic for a second, we're gonna do the Devil May Cry anime because Devil May March is in March, and at that point, we're gonna start doing our classical stuff because that's 2000s. It's not really a classic anime, but it's older.
Yeah, we'll get.
We'll
into
figure it
that.
out.
Yeah, but back on track. Like I there's characters that like it feels like you can fill in with almost any other character, and it's almost like Utami. You could put in Uta's place, and it would be the same anime on honestly, and that kind of doesn't turn me on for a good anime.
Hmm.
Like
I
it didn't. He didn't feel like he had like much of a personality other than we have to fight because I'm Gridman. He just
I prefer that to whiny. I don't want to get in the robot, Dad. But I'm sorry.
this is not Ava podcast.
Okay. Yeah. I know.
Well, the problem is,
but
you got the show's intrinsically linked because of the director's interest and references to it. But like, yeah.
Wait, hold on. The director, like, what was he like? Aside from the show that it's based off of, the live action show, and the random like Transformer tidbit that was just a one thing reference, and all these, like you said, there's hundreds of references.
No. There's not one thing.
there's a ton of references in
there's-
this.
There's
Yeah.
thousands. Like, there's not thousands. There's hundreds of references to stuff. In the beach episode, the vans that pick them up, those are G1 Ironhide's vehicle mode.
What? Ironhide
Yeah.
is in this. Oh my god, that's great.
Yeah, like they put a bunch of Easter eggs in it, but it just feels like Hibiki is almost just kind of like this neutral character.
I see where you're coming from.
By the way, Hibiki is actually technically his last name.
Yeah,
Just to
Uta,
let
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I know. We can call him Uta. Hibiki.
Well, so I wanted to ask though, what's the direction that you're talking about though, Lawrence? That's what I want to know. Like, what?
So Akira Mamiya he's a massive just anime fan, general just nerd. So a lot of his major influence, because he wanted to do an Ultraman anime, but Tsukuraya said, okay, how about you try out Gridman? So they did a short special, and he really was influenced by Evangelion as far as the way things are shot, the kind like the shot composition of the anime, the tone, the sort of atmosphere of it, the sort of take on character interaction. So that's what his main goal was to do with all of the character and the plot of it was to do sort of a character study of sorts. Now he took a lot of inspiration from the original Gridman plot as far as what they do with Akane. Akane is sort of like a reworked version of Takeshi Toto from the original show, and in which he's sort of like an antisocial person who wants to be loved by people, and in this she's a antisocial sort of type of person, but she's created this world in which she is the center of attention and it revolves around her.
Oh, kind of like Haruhi.
I guess no, nothing like Haruhi. But I guess going back to what Josh was saying about Yuta, I almost feel like Yuta is not actually meant to be the center of the story, and the story.
The girl is the center of the story. The villain is.
Yeah, it's a.
Go ahead.
It's a show where the villain is sort of the main character, and the main story arc, the main character arc, centers around Akane.
He's the vehicle to get to the point to see that she is the main part of the show. And it's just a shame that they didn't put a little bit more emphasis behind him, because it seemed like it was like, oh, we're dating in like the one sequence, but then you see that like the other two that are having the dream sequence have to like are having like more meaningful conversations with her and like driving the story further ahead. That's what I meant. Like he seems like he's not really a good character for the show. You just kind of like fell in line with it.
Well, I would say that part of that is he's very average, but then the amnesia involved in the story sort of wipes what personality he might have had to begin with, and now he's sort of rebuilding himself up through most of it.
I don't think that's necessarily a good argument because
I'm not saying it's
in the beginning, Rika, he asks Rika if he was the same person before that he is now. Like, if he's the same person, if his personality is the same as before he got amnesia, and she said, "Well, like, yeah, basically."
Yeah, he was kind of always a background kind of character. Like if there was going to be an anime without this, like he'd just be like the background character.
There is a video game that does this as well. It's called really quick ZHP Never Losing Ranger or Unlosing Ranger. I had it on PSP, and that's the plot. You're a random kid, just a kid. I think it was like middle schooler or something. You find a dying ranger who's been run over mid transformation, and that's the thing. Like,
well,
you're a normal person. You're a background character.
Yeah. It's fine to have like a normal person, but he didn't have like any qualities at all. That's the thing. Like even with animes where it's supposed to be like this is kind of like a background character, like My Teenage Snafu, or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but like even that character that was like meant to be a background character, he had a bigger personality, and that's what people related to. Like I don't even relate to Yuta at all. Like I just don't see him as anything. I think that's more of what I'm trying to say.
You know what? I have to kind of agree. I can't think of any arguments against that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think we can move on to like the overarching thing of this entire anime, which is what I didn't like.
I don't think I said much regarding the main character, to be honest with you.
Well, there's not much to say. We just went over. He's not very interesting.
Yeah, I did say that he was forgettable.
Yeah, and I mean that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I feel like Akane is the main focus. Akane is a lot more interesting.
I think that's also the point, is like he's supposed to be forgettable so that at the end, whenever you see that Akane is getting to that point, and then you're like, oh, I want to know more about her, and you just kind of can throw him to the side. You don't want to be like, okay, wait, what's going on with him? Because like that's some weird shit. You're like more focused on her because you actually
he becomes like his kind of character, if I can describe it, is ZHP did this as well. ZHP at the end, they kind of had this thing where the villain and the hero, they just form like a little ranger squad, and they go around fighting crime and saving lives, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of implied. They become utility. They become a part of the background. And the idea is, when you have I don't know if it's a trope or not, but like, it's like Yuta becomes a part of the background itself. Like you have bad things happen, and then you have police officers and firemen and rangers, stopping the bad things, and then you have an interesting character in the story. And the interesting character would be this girl, Akane.
And they also kind of explained it too, which was, it was like, Yuta's sleeping, and well, he's asleep, so that it's my personality as Gridman that you're getting.
So hold on. I just want to know how, like, because the last chunk of episodes is very referential to the previous series. So I want to understand. I want to know what you guys, if there's anything you didn't necessarily understand about it, because there was a lot that's just like, oh, okay, this is from the old show. This is
I don't know. When I was watching it, I don't know. It made more or less perfect sense to me.
Okay.
The whole show actually, to me, it felt very self-contained. It didn't feel like I needed to watch anything, man, that came before it to navigate what's going on, because any of the plot points, even the more esoteric ones, were thoroughly explained, either before or as they were happening, and it never left me confused.
I think I only had one kind of like confusing thing, which was like what that room in the like final episode was, but like I just kind of accepted kind of anime, like this room existed, but we didn't know that it existed kind of thing.
Which room are you referring to? Where they were departing?
Where they were departing, and Gridman was talking to them. That was the only kind of like
that is the room. All right, so when the kids in the old show, when they would speak to Gridman, that was the room he was in, and that was also where Gridman would depart and travel through the internet to whatever website location that he needed to be at. That's also where the original main character would combine with.
Oh, I get it, Gridman. He's on the grid.
Yeah, I figured that out because it was in the computer. So,
am I the one who noticed that Rika's mother is played by the same voice actress behind Haruko Haruhara from Fully Cooley?
Oh yeah, you know what?
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. Rika's mother was one of my favorite characters in the show.
Yeah, she seemed a little off, and I like that about her.
Yeah, even when like there was like a whole bunch of dudes with like swords hanging out in the shop, not ordering anything or whatever, she didn't care. They would get sucked. They would get sucked into the computer right in front of her, and she would just be like, okay.
I mean, it actually was like they did order food. I will give them that, because like a lot of the scenes they were drinking coffee that she made and stuff like that. So,
yeah, she's stupid laid back. That holy crap.
Well, it also seemed like that store was kind of run down, so it's just like, I guess there's people hanging out. Like, as long as it's not affecting our business, whatever.
Well, there is a lot of old technology over there. Computers from the early Heisei to late Showa era, that kind of stuff. I think the computer alone looked like something from the 1980s.
Yeah. I think
it might have been even older than that.
I think it was
definitely 80s.
Referring to like the older.
It would have been something like Commodore 64 or an Amiga or a how do I say this?
It looks like a really old workstation. That's what it looks like.
Computer junk. It's called the computer's called junk. Because in the old show, it's literally this like jumbled mess of computer parts and like filing cabinets and weird just circuitry that when Gridman was fighting, and if he would start to lose, the computer would start to like literally sparking and exploding all around the children, and that's how you know the stakes were high, because the
kids didn't use AOL. Just kidding.
If the computer shuts down, then Gridman shuts down and dies. So,
quick, overclock it.
So, can we say that Rika's mom used to learn G before it was a thing, and then she installed Ubuntu? Because that is something you would only see on that computer board.
Well, Gridman clearly runs on Linux. We just need to understand.
He runs on Linux. Jesus, yeah.
A computer like that would have been Unix.
Yeah.
True.
Okay. Anyway, let's get to the like.
They need to really update their graphics
that
card.
drove everything.
There is
Lawrence.
Yeah.
Lawrence.
Yeah, let's get to the heart of the show and like wrap this up, which was the giant fights, like the big mech battles.
Oh man,
Like
those
let's
giant
get to
fights.
everything.
That shit was ridiculous.
So yeah, this is the stuff that I hate because I just my biggest thing is whenever you jump into this kind of stuff, if there's no explanation on like they automatically know how to fight, they know what goes on, they're trying to,
Well,
and it's just big robots fighting, and
the Gridman when Naoto Yuta, because Naoto's is the original character. When he combines with Gridman, he's not in the driver's seat at all. It's Gridman. He's just combining with Gridman that allows him to
He's a
all the
human
things that he can
Megazord.
do.
Just kidding.
Bro. That's actually that's an apt comparison. Yeah, that's
If
just,
I
just,
wanna
just
if I wanna get really philosophical, he's a human vessel for a greater idea. Just kidding.
it's the that's just how the Ultraman series in particular usually works. It's not the human host, uh, uh, you know, in the pilot seat for the most part. It's usually whatever alien life form or whatever they're containing that is just using their body in order to fight and do all these amazing things.
yeah, I completely understand what they were trying to do with it. I never enjoy that kind of anime. It's like, oh cool, they're fighting. There's no progression of the fights. It's like, oh, they upgraded a little bit. Like the most excited I got was whenever I was like, oh, what's the full combination gonna look like? And then the full combination turned out, and I'm like, okay, I don't care anymore. Like
Hey, I think
it,
that, I
it's
think that. Go ahead.
it didn't bring anything new to the genre. I think is my biggest issue too, because like my favorite is Gurren Lagann, and that's because like I got hyped for every fight. It was just like, okay, now there's going to be another fight. Like it didn't.
You know, it's
There wasn't like
interesting.
a struggle.
You know what's interesting? The guy who directed this anime also directed Gurren Lagann back in the day.
No,
Uh,
Hiro Runia didn't direct Gurren Lagann.
Ah,
uh, what about that fight at the end where the kaiju is literally a Kane?
oh your god, that was one hell of a plot twist. The guy goes around and says, "You're not making any more of these miniature kaijus. You're gonna be the kaiju." And
Yeah.
before,
Did you find that one
thought that
interesting at
I
all?
thought that plot point was really cool. And the character actually reminded me of one in Excel World. One of the main bad guys in like it's like major in
Alexis
like
Taylor.
episode 30. I can't remember what his name is.
That's Alexis,
Auntie,
the guy, giant flaming one.
Like the main bad guy at the end.
oh
Like
Alexis,
Karen.
Yeah. Like he reminded me of like another character in like a different anime. With that combination. But no, that was definitely an interesting thing. And then that final beam just reminded me of like everything in Gurren Lagann, where it's just like, oh, ultimate thing that just wins. It's kind of like that like final
Well,
explosion moment.
there
so
is a
that is the move he uses to win is from the original show, because instead of just the city repairing itself, whenever Gridman would fight in the computer world, he doesn't go into the real world at all. To repair whatever damage to whatever like computer or like electronic system he's in, he would use his fixer beam, and it just repairs it, and then that stops whatever like computer program that's going haywire in the real world. Like so, and that's his thing. And for them, because that's not a part of this show at all. Him repairing anything, that's the job of all the Kane's kaiju. So it's a little out of left field if you don't have that information about what Gridman normally did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
seemed a
but
little. It seemed a little out of left field, even more so because it's like he would have been like it felt like he should have remembered that earlier, because you said
Mhm.
it's like Gridman knows how to fight because it's Gridman. He
Mhm.
would have known one of his signature moves, kind of thing. And
Yeah,
that
I
out
think
at the
they
last
implied
second.
that he had sort of memory loss going on with Gridman as well, and that so
Yeah,
it's
it seemed like kind of like like it feels like almost all of the rushed kind of endings where like the show kind of has to abruptly end at this point. That's kind of where it felt like, where he should have learned how to do this. Maybe if it was like a 13 or 14 episode thing, you would have seen it in like episode 12.
If this
rather
was
than
a multi-season
right at the last
show,
one.
if this was a multi-season
Yeah.
show, this would have been like something that would have led it to, like, Yuta, you had this ability, and then it's like, I've had this ability all along. I need to master it, and then like some explanation comes in on how he had the ability and how Gridman either was keeping it from him, or how it had to be right at that
Well-
moment, or how he remembered it coincidentally, conveniently,
well,
whatever.
it's when he comes out into the old Gridman design, when the original design for Gridman is when he's able to use it. So it's like the Gridman we saw all the time wasn't his true form. So
Yeah.
that's the idea behind
It just
becomes the real.
I understood like kind of the ideas. It just kind of didn't seem like it fit at that final moment. That's where I'm at. Where
There is a
and that's
character
why I
we
said
failed to mention.
it might appreciate, well, if you watch the original Gridman, you might appreciate some of the things a little more like that.
Yeah, but we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to watch the.
Yeah.
really shouldn't have to, but it's sort of like it's a sort of fan service type thing, because that's really what Akira Memmi basically was all about, was providing large amounts of pure fan service.
This is what I'm going to say about it, and this will just be kind of like my final statement on it. Whenever a move like that comes out, it reminds me of like the Maka Punch at the end of Soul Eater, where like they ended the anime because they didn't finish the manga, and she just had to have like some ultimate ability just to end it. It reminds me of like Gurren Lagann, just like, we're just going to keep drilling through the anti-drill stuff just to get to that point, which works in those animes because that was the ridiculousness of it. So whenever I see a move that's just so ridiculous out of left field, it's like, okay, that just came out of nowhere. It's just ending it now. Like, that's just how it needs to push it to the end. So that's all I'm saying. It's just like, I wish that maybe
Big O had something like that as well. I forgot what the actual beam was
Yeah.
called. Big O had that right at the end. Like,
Yeah,
Dorothy learned how to use Big O's unlock. Since she's an android, her backup system shows up because somebody yanked out her hard drive. It was Alex something, the Rosewater, yeah, the bad guy from Big O. Her hard drive gets yanked out to run Big Foul because her operating system's needed to run it, and then Dorothy's backup system turns on, so she's no longer comatose. She learns how to get Big O fully operational, and Big O pulls out a laser from its chest and takes out a bunch of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of like the go-to at this point. Like, hey, we need to wrap up this show.
Yeah, it's
There
the
is a-
ultimate character that can't die kind of thing. That's just all I see. That's
We
it.
concentrated so much on Gridman that we forgot a character. Auntie.
I mentioned him once. I said he's like Kaoru from Evangelion, but these guys
I
weren't too
don't-
happy.
Yeah, he's
Not at all.
he's definitely not. He's like everything you could possibly do to not be Kaoru from Evangelion.
Hey, he might be the opposite, but he still functions similarly.
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
He's still a humanoid kaiju.
That's not.
Yeah, that's where the similarities end.
Yeah, I did like.
He's also obsessed with the main character. Sort of.
No.
No, that's not how this works. One obsession is not as good of as another type of an obsession.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, Akane used to beat the crap out of him. She used to be street the motherfucker. I mean, what is there to see? I actually feel sorry for the dude.
Yeah.
So his name, I don't know if it's in his monster form. It basically means one who endures increasing hardships or something along those lines. What's interesting is he's based off of one of the few monsters in the original show that could speak, and I think it's like Shinobilizer or something like that, and he had all sorts of weapons, and picking that for him was incredibly interesting because he's got a very cool design, and then they end up rehashing some unused ideas from the original show of turning him into Grid Knight.
That was awesome. I like the fact that he turned into Grid Knight. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I did like him just as an overall character. He did build a lot to the show. Like he seemed more of a main character than who we presumed was the main character.
He was looking for a purpose.
Yeah.
And that was all he really yearned for. He yearned for I don't know, love. And Akane, being the manipulative bitch that she was, well,
Well,
Very
it wasn't so much
long
love as it
committee.
was just being cared about and having purpose. And then he found that in the team. The team cared about him. Like once they kind of helped him figure out how reality works, he switched sides. He was like, "Yeah, screw the kaiju business. I'm gonna be a knight."
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
really weird because go ahead.
Yeah, let's get back to the plot so that we can wrap this up.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of touch on that where it's like I almost see this anime as like a couple different animes that you can kind of pull apart from each other. There's a few different plot lines where you can see like almost like the love triangle part. You can see Anti trying to figure out his identity. You can see like people struggling with their identities throughout the entire thing, and then there's the giant mechs.
Mhm.
So it's almost like I would watch Anti as like an anime, as like a 3-part
An offshoot, yeah.
short series. Yeah,
OVA.
and like there's a lot of these that I would actually enjoy just watching alone without it just being like what it is. Like I would definitely watch the Neon Genesis Junior High Schoolers. Like I would, just being like an offshoot OVA kind of thing.
Yeah. I can totally see them being archetypes. Like if they had an OVA, it'd be about like the city's in trouble, Gridman needs us. Or if Anti had one, it'd be like his struggle. Like he's still gonna have an identity struggle even after that's like a normal character arc. Like you could see like Dark War Greymon had that. That's like but it was a little edgier. In Digimon freaking had that. So
yeah. Or like
Well-
Akane trying to like join the other three as like a friend group, and like all of that. Like I would love to watch all of those as individual, but as this combination of an anime, like I just don't like how a lot of those plot points fell together.
I will say that
I actually liked how it all fed into how it all fed into one another. Because I feel like one of the show's strengths was its ability to tie different types of storytelling together and vastly different characters into one unanimous plot around this one character, Akane, and in a way that was very interesting, and most of the characters like Rika and Auntie had their own interesting arcs and it kept everything interesting. So I feel like as cool as Akane is. I feel like I would have gotten bored if it was just Akane the whole show.
It would have been It would have been the kaiju melancholy of Haruhi. As much as you won't agree with me.
No,
Yeah,
it would not.
It definitely was nice to have like that plot twist at the end with like Akane being like the main thing.
I feel like you have a fundamental, like one of the biggest misunderstandings in the world that I've ever seen. Like your brain turns off every time the thought of Haruhi comes into your head.
No, it doesn't. There's
Yes,
classical animes
yes, it does.
like Neon Genesis Evangelion and Haruhi that I do not understand the logic of, and when I see them, I boil it down to narcissistic individual with godlike powers. Dear God, help us.
No, that's that. I mean, we can have this debate later. Maybe I'll force you to watch the damn thing. But
I watched 2 episodes and lost interest.
Yeah, that's why
Hey,
you were completely
I
wrong.
I watched 2 episodes of this and lost interest, and I made it all the way through.
Let me guess. The melancholy of Akane Shinjo.
Well, that's the joke, Lewis, and he didn't take too
I know.
kindly to it. He's like, no, you're
I
wrong.
know.
Well, I don't know. It would be funny if there was truth to it, but there isn't.
You're saying Haruhi and Akane are way too different for it. I mean, like okay,
Have you seen her room? Have you seen her room? I mean, all these garbage bags that she had laying around the floor. Were those the guys that she killed, or was it something else?
It was all
Just trash.
it was all it was all trash.
She's definitely a Hikikomori inspired character.
She had broken glasses. She had cracks on her phone. You know,
what's that style supposed to be?
This wasn't a neat person. This wasn't a person with a lot of direction in her life. You know, that's actually pretty good characterization. It tells you a lot about the person. Just having trash in their room, having cracked glasses and a cracked phone. Not only did she drop her phone and crack it, and she dropped her glasses and cracked them, but she doesn't even bother to take the time to fix them.
You can tell that, like, even though that she has all of that power, that she doesn't know either like what to do with it or how to handle the responsibility. Like she has like maids setting up basically like the robots. The kaiju that were meant to like clean up the city were just there to just do that one job because she doesn't know how to redesign everything. She almost seemed like she was like complicit in what was going on.
One of the interesting things is about halfway to 3/4 to like 2/3 of the way through the show, she starts being very disinterested in the task of destroying everything, and defeating Gridman and all that, and it's because she's slowly realizing not actually interested in that, and what she actually wants is acceptance. And I think go ahead.
I can touch on this. I think the best point that I think shows this is the kaiju that made them sleep, and she was using that as like her like, this is my chance to finally live how I want to moment. And even that went to hell. Like, she's like, in that moment, she's like, I can't even keep them asleep and in their dreams that I'm forcing them to be my friends. Keep them as my friends. Like, you saw that was like her crack moment, like where it's like, oh no, like I can't even maintain a friendship in a dream.
Mhm.
And when she tries to commit suicide, she can't even do that. She can't even die because she has cat-like reflexes.
And she's a god. So
Straight up.
Yeah, she's literally
Yeah.
the creator
But
of
one of yeah. What? Let's see. I think we've gone on enough, and it might be time for everyone to make their closing statements.
Yep,
What do you guys think?
I agree.
Yeah, I think I'll go. I think I'll go first. I really enjoyed what the first Gridman, and this was no different. This was great. They're different shows. This is a much more cerebral, show, and you could see if you know what influences the director and the creative team, you could see like a lot of it present in the work, and I think it's great. Um, the like at first it seems like it's just a tokusatsu show. Bad guy shows up, but the mystery and then the interesting plot with the character of Akane and the sort of redemption of her is it's great. It's incredibly interesting. And I think it's got a tone that I don't necessarily see in a lot of animes as far as yes, a lot of more modern anime. I would love to see more from it at all. Like that'd be my one thing. I want to see more. And that's probably the best thing to feel coming off of something. Like, yeah, I want more. That was nice. So I think I've been rambling still.
Yeah, I kind of on the
Uh,
same page as Lawrence, but go ahead, Lewis. You go next.
Oh man, where do I start? For one thing, the references.
Oh wait, Lawrence. What do you rate it?
I would give it a I think I gave it a 7 out of 10. I give it an 8. I give it an 8.
That's an A for me.
All right, now go. Now go.
All right, let me say it like this: the fact that they added the 2 theme songs from Inferno Cop, one of my all-time favorite anime shows from Trigger.
Yep, I remember that actually.
Well,
I freaking spotted that. That was awesome.
Akira Amemiya is the director of Inferno Cop. Correct.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. When I said, "Oh my god, this fucking Madlab actually did it!" Wow, I didn't expect that. Anyway, Dreadman, I'll be honest with you guys. I thought I was gonna hate this anime for real, but it really proved me wrong as being one of the hypest shows of the year. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the music. I really enjoyed
It deserved the hype.
action. Exactly. And it was by Trigger. Of course, Trigger. You know what I mean? Trigger can do no wrong. And it happened again and again and again for the most part. Honestly, this is an 8 of, this is a straight up 8 of an anime. The plot, well, here's the thing. I really don't think this anime will ever have a second season because it's already done. OVAs, yeah, sure, like you guys said. But the show as a whole, yeah, 12 episodes, it's done. Let it die. It happened. Akane goes back to for where she, spoiler alert, where she comes from. Everything works out for Auntie in the end. What else? Everyone goes on with their lives as if nothing happened. Gridman, he and Gridman become one. Yeah, definitely watch it. Check the shit out. Even it just for this is a straight up 2-day anime. If you're if you're not doing anything. 12 episodes. It deserves a hype. It deserves everything that we've talked about. This is a solid 8. The pacing, though, that is one of the main flaws of the anime. But considering all the hype that it's been getting, I could forgive it a little bit. It had pretty slow pacing until the last couple of episodes where shit started getting real, and the plot twist and all that. So,
All right, RJ.
I'd say for me, I wasn't expecting it to be this good. I thought it was just going to be another, generic mecha. I didn't even know it was a Toku show. Because to be honest, I'm not gonna lie and say, "Oh yeah, I'm familiar with this." No, I actually wasn't familiar with the series. I knew a bit about, like the various Power Ranger shows, Kamen Rider, VR Troopers. I knew about those shows, but I didn't know about Gridman. And this actually makes me want to go back and watch and see what it was about, because this is actually kind of interesting. So having been into kaiju and having been into the various Ranger shows, I'd say this was a pretty good adaptation. I mean, right now as I'm talking to you guys, I'm playing Platinum Games rendition of Transformers Devastation, and like if I could describe it in a metaphoric way, that this anime was like if like how Platinum takes an IP and makes like an amazing action-packed take on it. That this anime was like an amazing action-packed take on a kaiju show, and I loved it. It was great. So I give it 8.5, 9 out of 10. Let's go with 9 out of 10. I loved it. The soundtrack was all right. Like I liked it. I didn't like every song in it, but you're not gonna love everything. Yeah, 9 out of 10. It's good.
Josh.
Yeah. I don't like these type of animes. That's just my personal thing. I will say, if I'm comparing it to every other mecha anime, it's not even close to the top of my list that I've watched. And there's much more iconic ones that are going to sit in my mind and that I'm going to remember. This is one that I'm just kind of like not even really remember outside of the music. If anything, like I would have given this like a 3 or 4 for my own personal taste,
God
but just
damn.
the music. Yeah, that music pushed it up, and some of the characters pushed it up more. So I'm gonna give it like probably about a 5, just on that music, and a couple of the characters are just worthy of being in something a little bit better.
What's the group average?
Wait.
I brought it down.
No, we haven't all.
Oh yeah,
We
sorry.
haven't all gone yet.
Right.
I still have to go.
Yep, you do, Neo Tokyo.
Don't forget about little old me over here. Let's see. I was going into this completely blind, but I knew it was Studio Trigger, and I immediately fell in love with this. This was some of the most fun I've had watching anime in a long time. And every time there were battles, my heart was pounding. Every time there was a plot twist, I would freeze. Like my body would be would like be paralyzed in just shock. I was completely immersed in the world and the show, and I was completely attached to the characters to the point of blindness. So I absolutely loved and adored this show from beginning to end. But objectively, I'm not going to say, oh, this is this is a masterpiece, this is revolutionary, or anything like that. It's it's a Trigger anime, and it's stuff we've seen before from Trigger, and within that light, I can't just go, man, I loved it to no end. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10 because it doesn't deserve a 10 out of 10 because it's not a masterpiece. So I think from a more objective perspective, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Good, maybe even great, but it's not to die for.
Alrighty, that's pretty accurate. You gave it a, but I know so just to be clear, like anybody listening in, both Getsuryo and Neo Tokyo, Will and Josh, they both they like animes that aren't exactly this type of anime, whereas Lewis and Lawrence and myself, we like things that have rangers and mecha and giant battles and all that. But he gave a fair assessment, and I mean Josh kind of gave the assessment of the average person who's not into this, and Will gave a very objective assessment, whereas I gave it a 9 out of 10 because I'm somebody who's into this stuff and I like action-packed things. So you did a good job. I like the way you were very poignant with your scoring. What's the average? I want to know that.
Take the average. What? 9, 8, 8,
8.5.
8.5,
5,
8.5, and then 5, or was it 3 or 4?
I said 5. Yeah.
5. Yeah, that's still an 8, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Add them all up and divide by. Add them all up and divide by 5.
Here comes the calculator. Was it 9888?
It's 98885.
No, there's 3 8, 1 9, and a 5. That's totally 8, yo.
Cool. To 7.6, but I think there was like a 0.5 in there too. So like you're looking at 7.7. Higher.
7.7. Let's see. Let me pull up.
If it wasn't for the pacing, I would have given it a 9. But 8.5.
All right. The My Anime List score is 7.44.
We're pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and IMV.
We keep getting close to mouse scores.
Yeah. I kept that average down. Thank you very much.
It's almost like we represent a cool sample of the demographic they're aiming for.
Yeah, and I do want to point this out too. Like for me, like Gurren Lagann is still like one of my top favorites, and that's like a 9 in my book. Excel World, which is kind of like mechy, is my favorite anime of all time. Like
I got a question about Excel
you
World.
can have great.
Real quick, is that tied in? Real quick, is it tied into SOA at all?
Kind of. It's like 20 years in the future.
Okay, that explains it. Because I saw an XL World video game. It was SOA versus XL World, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. That's why it's like 20 years in the future, and it's so much better.
There's mech in it.
Kind of. I'll explain to you the show a little bit later. But
please do so.
I'm
considering getting it at some point.
Yeah. But like your basic kind of like anime like this, it usually is like a 2 or a 3 to me. So this is actually above average for this type of anime for myself. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Alrighty.
All right, and that was our podcast for SSSS Gridman. I hope everyone enjoyed themselves, and I hope everyone who's interested and hasn't seen it yet comes and watches it. Overall, it is recommended by us. So
Straight up.
And I hope you guys found the debates we had about this very interesting. And I hope you all have a good night. Thank you for watching.
Everybody have a good week. Enjoy the rest of your January, what's left of it. And next month is Fantasy Month. We're going to be doing Rise of the Shield Hero, or what's been released so far. We might actually talk about a bit of the manga as well.
Wait, we actually haven't decided yet. That's what we were going to talk about after
we're gonna figure
go
it
off.
all out.
Just
yeah.
just sort of prematurely exposed it.
He's just forcing us to watch something now. Thanks. All right.
Well, we'll figure it out. But right now, the two top are Promised Neverland and Rise of the Shield Hero. But we're doing Fantasy February on Outpost for at least on the gaming side. So I'm hoping to tie that in somehow with the podcast. Anyways, having said that, you guys watching, have a great January or what's left of it. I hope until the next podcast, enjoy your February.
Access flag, I guess.